Head over to miniaturemarket.com where they have thousands of board games at discounted prices like Paint the Roses. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to be cooperatively making a garden, but not just for anybody, for the Queen of Hearts. So they're going to need to be hearts and spades and diamonds and also different colors. And if we don't get them right, off with our heads. Today we're taking a look at Paint the Roses from Northstar Games. This is a cooperative logic and deduction game. Let me show you how it plays. I'll see you on the other side. In Paint the Roses, you're going to be building a garden from different tiles. And these tiles are going to have different shapes that you may find on cards because the Queen of Hearts is maybe taking your head off if you don't make the garden the way that she wants. So you're going to see spades and clubs and diamonds and hearts and different colors in here. And you're the gardeners and you might be running by the White Rabbit. Now the version I'm playing with is the deluxe version, which comes with acrylic tiles and a nice game trays insert and such. However, even the retail version comes with these really cool miniatures. Now the board does start off with some starting tiles in specific spots, like 5 and 5, so the game does start in the same way every time. But all the tiles you can grab are random, and each player is going to have a different type of what's called a whim card, essentially a goal card that can be easy, medium, or hard. Easy ones are always going to be color to color, in this case red, purple. Medium can be color to color or shape to shape, like diamond and spade. And hards can be color to color, shape to shape, or color to shape. This happens to be a color to color one. And they've ranged, these ones like are 1 or 2 points, these are 2 or 3, I think these ones go 4 or 5. So you'll get a certain amount of points when you get these right. The harder ones take longer, but they're worth more points. And what you're trying to do is fill in the entire garden with tiles and survive that round. As you get things correct, you're going to be moving forward like the points I just showed on some of those cards. However, the Queen's always going to be moving as well, even when you get things right, but twice as much when you get things wrong. So she's going to be on your heels a lot of the game, and if she ever catches up to you or passes you, off with your heads, you've lost. So let's say it's your turn. You're going to take one of these tiles and place it somewhere, and there is a ton of strategy of where to place it, which one to take, where to place it, where not to place it. Leaving information behind as to what you're not taking gives information to everybody else because it's limited communication. You can't tell them anything about your card. You can only just place things, but everyone else can talk about what they think your whim card is. For example, let's say they had this whim card. It would be secret, only they would know. Let's say that red and purple easy one. They might take something like this, and they might do something like this. Now the player that placed this, and all other players, will place cubes on there giving clues. Now, here I am going to place 2 of my colored cubes on this because this is the tile that was placed and I'm trying to tell everybody about it. Now, what this tells me is between this tile and all tiles that surround it, there's 2 exact matches to my win card. I have red and purple. Red, purple, red, purple. 2 matches, I have 2 cubes. Now, in this case, everyone knows pretty much by logic and deduction, because they know it has to be color to color, that it's probably red purple. You can get a lot of the easy ones in one turn like this. But keep in mind, all other players are putting cubes here too to say whether it matches theirs and how many cubes as well, so you're learning things about other players on everyone's turn. Now there are 3 stacks of paper that you can use to keep track of things, like what order the things come out in. If you're doing a medium one, this, hard, this. Now typically what happens is you take one of these sheets and you concentrate on one of your neighbors, and you'll be concentrating on theirs, somebody else will be concentrating on yours, so everyone's sort of figuring out one logic puzzle, but you're all working together. You're kind of like, hey, this is what I see, what do you guys think over here? Everyone's talking except the person who you're trying to guess, of course. So it's very free form that way. So there's ones for medium and hard in the placement order. However, I will say that there's not enough sheets because this runs out pretty fast because you need one of these for each of the ones you're trying to figure out. I would have much rather have seen an app that they would have developed or some, like a dry erase marker. That would have been much better. However, there is some people, thanks to the people in the Board Game Geek community, that have published a little web-based app that allows you to press on your phone and get the same thing. So that's what I use now because there's just not enough of these sheets. So maybe the yellow player also placed one here because this was the tile that was placed, and they put 1. So what does that mean? We know it's not red purple because they would have placed 2. So this could be club spade or club diamond. We've narrowed it down to 2 just on this first play for that player. There's also a lot of strategy about whose card do you guess, because after you do all this and everyone places the cubes, people are going to decide which card to guess. Again, you can guess any player. It doesn't have to be the player that did this. You have a lot of flexibility. Generally, strategy speaking, you're trying to guess the player's card who's about to go next, Because if you get, when you guess it, if you get it right, they're going to get a new card and they'll have a lot of opportunity to give you information on their next turn. There's some deeper strategy there. But let's say they guessed mine anyway. They guessed it, they got it right. If you get it right, you move one. If they didn't get it right, you don't show it to them, you just say nope. So if you got it right, you'll move this much. So we'd move one. The queen by default is also going to move one, even if you get it right, regardless of the type of card it was. However, if you got it wrong, she would move twice that, in this case, 2. Now, let's say this turn, when we got it correct, we actually passed this white rabbit. This one will actually go to another section of the board a little bit further down, and the queen is gonna get a rose. So I just placed a white rose underneath her. Remember, by default, she moves 1, now she moves 2. Later on, she might move 3 or 4 or 5, depending on how many roses are, and these come out every time you pass a rabbit. So the better you're getting in the game, the harder it's going to be and the faster she's gonna move, so it really much balances itself out. So let's say the queen was here. Now, if you just did an easy one and got one right, you'd go like this, but she's gonna move 2, right? If you had gotten it wrong, she's gonna move double it, 4. So you can see that very quickly, you're gonna feel like you have a big lead at the beginning of the game, but towards the end, she's gonna come up on you really quick. Then this simply refills, and it's the next player's turn. That's pretty much it. Pick a tile, place it, everyone places cubes, everyone discusses whose one we think we should guess, because you have to guess one. You see what happens, maybe you move, maybe the queen moves, maybe you both move, you refill, that's the whole game. You're trying to get to the point where you fill all of these in and you live past the queen chasing you, and if you do, you've won. So let's just show you one more thing of strategy in this game, how deep it is. Let's say the next player takes this, and they put this here, and let's say they put 2 cubes on it, because there's 2 matches. Let's say no other player had any matches, so they don't put any cubes. So you look at this and you're talking with everybody else that's not this player and you're trying to figure it out and you're like, let's see, they put 2 cubes. So it's either going to be heart to heart, because there's 2 of those, or red to yellow, because there's 2 of those. So you have it matched 50%. So do you want to make a 50% guess? Well, you don't actually need to, because you could be like, you know what? If it was red to yellow, they would have placed it here probably, because it would have been 2 matches, and we wouldn't have had any possibility of other thing. It would have been a sure thing. So you can deduce where they didn't place to figure out what they were trying to tell you. So there's just one little surface of depth. There's many other things in this game that do things like this, where you can sometimes look here and see, what did they not take? And where did they not place? Oh, they could have taken this and placed it over here, and that would have told us this, but they didn't, so it's probably this. Lots of that depth that is hidden in this game that you don't see right off the bat. That's why this game's fantastic. Let's go up top. All right, you should be able to know right from that overview if this game is for you and your group or not. Deduction games are pretty polarizing. They are my favorite genre of games, so I tend to like them a lot, but some people absolutely will hate them. This is not for everybody. This game, you gotta have the right group, especially because it's cooperative, right? But if you do, this is an excellent one. I think this game is very unique. In fact, after playing this a bunch of times, I sat back and thought, how many games are deduction, spatial tile laying, not just deduction, but logical deduction, like spreadsheet style logic puzzle style deduction, cooperative with limited communication? And I went through and I looked off the top of my head and I didn't think of anything. And then I went on Board Game Geek, did some advanced search. Only one game could I find that's even close to this, and it actually also came out this year, and it was called Decorum from Floodgate Games, which also is a little bit of spatial tiling, logic deduction, cooperative, limited communication. The odd thing is when you talk about something that is that specific, you're talking about a genre within a genre within a genre within a genre. That's already, deduction is not a very big genre to start with. You think, wow, there's 2 games that actually have all those things, they must feel like the same game. These games couldn't feel more different, even though they are so specifically the same from the types of things that they are, which is crazy, which makes it even more that this game is very unique. So if you like cooperative deduction games, also Decorum, I've already reviewed that. Go check that out. Both of these games are great. If you like deduction, you really should have both of them in your collection, in my opinion. So you think about other games that have deductions and stuff. That's like Chronicles of Crime. That's more of a narrative game. Codenames Duet. Yeah, it's cooperative and it's deduction, but it's more about word deduction than logic spreadsheet deduction. Beyond Baker Street or Hanabi, lots of limited communication, but it's more about card play than it is about like pure logic puzzles. Witness is more of like trying to remember things that people said to you. Rising 5 is more like mastermind, but there's a lot of other cooperative action selection stuff going on. There's really nothing like this game. The thing I could say it's probably most like, if you like Cryptid, which is a competitive game, this game is kind of like a cooperative version of Cryptid because you're putting cubes on the board to give clues, but in the opposite way. You're trying to give them as much information, where in Cryptid, you're trying to put cubes in places that give them the least, if not zero information. So it's kind of like Cryptid in reverse. If you like Cryptid from a deduction standpoint, you're probably going to like this game because it's the thing that it's most like. And Decorum, of course, even though they're very different. So that right now, you should know whether this game is for you. Let me tell you what I liked about it. There is a ton of subtle depth here. The game's pretty simple. Take a tile, place it, place some cubes or not, move the queen, refresh. That's it. Mechanically, this game is dead simple. Oh my gosh, the plethora of decisions that you have and the different things that you're trying to tell people without talking by what you take. It's like, okay, which tile, not only which tile did they take and what did they place, which tile did they not place next to? Which tiles did they not take? Which ones did they leave there? Even just those two things, there is sometimes way more information you can glean from what did they not take? What did they leave there? Usually you're trying to make the ones in the gut, like the ones that you can take from, be as variable as possible. If you can, you want to have all four colors, all four shrubs. You know, why did they leave that one? They normally should be able to take that one. That means they must have wanted to tell me this, because if not, they would have done this. Or where did they place? If they, you know what? They could have taken that tile and placed that over here, and then we would have known it was this, so it can't be that. Stuff like that. Lots and lots and lots of depth here. There's also even more depth as you get later in the game as to what are you leaving open on the edges of the board. You might do a suboptimal placement earlier in the game to make sure that you're leaving more options in the garden. You don't want to block things in towards the end of the game when the queen's moving the fastest. This game has so much hidden depth that is not noticeable on the first handful of plays. This game just keeps opening up more and more strategies, more ways to play better. And if you just play this game at a cursory level, you're probably not going to think it's that great. You might think it's either too hard, too easy, whatever your group thinks. But there is so much here in the onions that you peel off of the layers. So tons and tons of depth there. Even like, hey, what card difficulty should we take? You know, the smaller ones give us a pretty easy one to get, but that doesn't move us that far. In fact, the queen will probably maybe even move as far, if not farther than us later in the game if we take an easy card. So it's like when to pull the right cards as well, huge implications. I like that you could change the difficulty. It's not really in the rules, but you could start the queen back a little bit if you really wanted to, if you're playing with kids and such like that. I like that it tells you basically if you're playing with, a lot of players, each player kind of like tries to figure out or tracks the logic on the player, next to them. So, right, so you're not trying to figure out everyone's, you can work together and talk through things, but only one player sort of like keeps track, and that keeps everyone sort of moving and thinking and working together. This one, I showed you as an overview, was the deluxe edition. It has, the crazy tiles, has the expansion, which has a bunch of modules in there. You can buy the expansion separately as well. On the negative side of things, again, game is not going to be for everybody. This game can be analysis paralysis inducing. Somebody might be just staring, looking, and going through all these permutations, which if you're playing the game right, actually can take a while because you're really trying to do the best you can. You got to look through all the options and try to deduce what they're trying to tell you without them talking. Some turns can take a while. I don't mind it because it's very engaging and you're thinking, but it can drag on if someone takes way too much time. There's not enough sheets. You're using one sheet for each of the things, like a medium. You might not use them for every turn. But some of the ones, if you're not quite sure what they're talking about, you'll be using these sheets. There's not enough there. I would have rather have seen them use an app. By the way, someone on Board Game Geek did make an app that's really good that I now use. You can go check that out in the Board Game Geek threads. Or I would have liked to see them just include like little dry erase board with markers. Okay, so, and I know that would have probably raised the price, but that's better than sheets that you'll run out with pretty quick. So I don't even use the sheets anymore. The only one I do use the sheets for is tracking the order that the tiles came out and things like that. Like all deduction games, this one is not, this doesn't avoid this. You could make a mistake. You could either put the wrong amount of cubes or not put a cube when you're supposed to, or just make a stupid blunder like that. And you might not realize it until it's too late where people are like, wait a minute, we guessed this is not right. We guessed this, it has to be this. You're like, oh, I should have put 2 cubes there. So it could screw some things up. Just like most deduction games, we found it's not against the spirit of the game that as you're thinking things through, when they put this here, people talk out loud. They're like, okay, so this means, because they put 2 cubes, this means that it has to be either like pink purple or it has to be like spade diamond. And when you talk that out loud, the other player can listen to you and go, yep, they're just thinking and they're listening to what you're saying. And they're going, yep, okay, I did that right. They're putting down what I'm picking, they're picking up what I'm putting down. So it's better if you talk out loud. That can really reduce this to almost nothing. If you're talking out loud and saying what you think it shows you, what it doesn't show you, and the other player can be sort of like not making any faces or making any gestures, but following along with you to make sure they didn't make a mistake, this isn't a big issue. But it could happen if you're not doing that. Overall, if you like deduction games and you have a group that will like deduction games, this is a very unique one, nothing else really. And I love it. And for all these reasons, it's getting my Highness honor, it's getting a Saxophone Serenade, and this is a pretty big box, which means I gotta figure out what the heck am I gonna knock out of my deduction section to make room for this. I won't have to do that for about 6 months because it's gonna go on my new releases shelf for a while until that cycles through. But this is a great one. It's been the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships through board games by helping you find the next one you'll love. Game Toppers not only transforms your existing table to a high-quality gaming solution, they now offer full leg kits and dining cover solutions for the full table application. Paired with their amazing, thematic, premium stitch edge mats from noted board game artists like Vincent Dutray, collapsible cup holders, and really cool accessories, it's a complete system that upgrades every game you play. Go to GameToppersLLC.com or click the link below to late pledge for their latest Game Topper 3.5 Kickstarter campaign.